Every day, trillions of dollars whip across the globe. Investors, banks, and corporations move capital from one continent to another in fractions of a second. This chart shows external assets and liabilities relative to global GDP from 1980 onward. The massive, sharp upward trajectory you see here is historically new, driven by a wave of financial deregulation that pushed global capital flows to heights never seen before. If you are a government managing an economy, you generally want three specific powers. You want free capital mobility, allowing money to easily enter and exit your borders to encourage investment. You want a fixed exchange rate, which provides stability for your importers and exporters. And you want monetary independence, the ability to set your own interest rates to manage local inflation or unemployment. But the laws of macroeconomics dictate a brutal trade-off. You can only successfully hold two of these three powers at the same time. In international finance, this is known as the Impossible Trinity. Let's look at why the math breaks down. Say you want to boost your local economy by lowering interest rates. If you also allow capital to flow freely across your borders, global investors aren't going to stick around. They will instantly pull their money out of your country to look for better returns elsewhere. As that massive amount of money flees, the value of your currency plummets. If your government tries to artificially maintain a fixed exchange rate while investors are running for the exits, you will drain your foreign reserves trying to prop it up until the entire system collapses. To survive in the global market without triggering a catastrophic crash, a nation has to make a choice. It must consciously amputate one of its core sovereign economic powers. The United States chose to keep its monetary independence and maintain fully open capital markets. The sacrifice here is the fixed exchange rate. The US dollar floats, meaning its value fluctuates based entirely on market whims. The US absorbs this volatility largely because the dollar acts as the world's primary reserve currency, an exorbitant privilege that gives the US a unique financial cushion. The euro area took a different path. European nations opted for open capital markets and locked in a perfectly fixed exchange rate with each other by adopting a single currency, the euro. The cost of that setup is the complete loss of monetary independence at the national level. If a country like Greece faces a local economic crisis, it cannot lower its own interest rates to stimulate its economy. That dial is controlled in Frankfurt for the entire continent. Then there is China. The Chinese state demands a heavily managed fixed exchange rate to keep its exports competitively cheap, and it demands independent interest rates to tightly steer its own domestic growth. To hold on to those two powers, China has to abandon the third. They must completely restrict the free movement of capital. They achieve this practically through strict capital controls. This is a vast legal and financial apparatus designed to physically and legally prevent money from fleeing or flooding the country whenever investors feel like it. The Impossible Trinity forces every global superpower to choose a specific vulnerability. You either accept market volatility, surrender local control, or build a financial wall. So, what happens when a developing nation attempts to fake having all three powers in an era of globalized finance? This chart illustrates the number of countries experiencing financial crises from 1971 through 2008. As global financial integration accelerated, the world saw massive spikes in sovereign debt, banking, and currency failures. When capital is highly mobile, economic booms are artificially amplified. But when the market turns, the bust becomes a sudden, devastating contagion. The Impossible Trinity operates as an unforgiving mathematical mechanism, bankrupting nations that attempt to defy its logic. Economist Danny Roderick argues that these economic constraints eventually force a choice on the nature of democracy itself. The political trilemma features three pillars: hyperglobalization, the nation-state, and democratic politics. You can only pick two. To keep its nation-state status and achieve hyperglobalization, a country enters the golden straitjacket, completely abandoning mass democratic politics to maintain global market confidence. In practice, this means that to attract global capital, a nation's domestic regulations, labor laws, and tax policies must conform to international market demands, regardless of what local voters actually want or vote for. Deep integration into the global economy requires fundamentally shrinking domestic politics. Every nation must choose its straitjacket.